Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen her? The woman who walks alone, silent in the crowd, unnoticed in the noise. You may pass by her every day, yet never truly see her. She has no friend to call, no hand to hold, no voice that echoes back when she speaks. And yet she walks. The isolation of a soul is not merely the absence of people, but the presence of something deeper in emptiness that lingers even in a crowded room. It is a silence that speaks louder than words, a solitude that is not chosen but given, not embraced but endured. A woman who walks alone without the warmth of companionship knows this feeling all too well. She moves through life like a shadow, present but unseen, breathing but unnoticed. She wakes up to a world that continues without her, where conversations flow like rivers she cannot enter, where laughter fills spaces she can never reach. There is no message waiting for her in the morning, no hand reaching out in the evening. The phone remains silent, the door never knocked upon. Time moves forward, but for her, it stands still as if the universe itself has forgotten she exists. And yet the pain of loneliness is not just in the absence of others, it is in the presence of a heart that still longs, still hopes, still aches for connection. The world teaches that strength is found in independence, that solitude is a mark of resilience. But what of the soul that was never meant to walk alone? What of the heart that was made for companionship, yet finds none? The human spirit was designed for love, for friendship, for voices that call its name. But when none come, what is left? She learns to live with her own silence, to be her own company in a world that moves without her. She speaks, but only to herself. She laughs, but only in memories. The walls become her only witnesses. The stars are only listeners. And in this isolation, she begins to question, is it me? Am I unworthy of love? Am I invisible? The loneliness does not just sit beside her, it whispers to her, planting seeds of doubt, of unworthiness, of fear. And yet she carries on. She walks through the days with her head held high, though no one notices the weight she bears. She smiles, though no one sees the cracks behind it. She continues, though no one asks her how she does it. She learns the art of pretending, the delicate dance of existing without truly belonging. She becomes a master of silence, an expert in endurance. But there is something about isolation that even loneliness cannot take away. In the quiet, she hears her own voice. In the emptiness, she finds a strength she never knew she had. Where there is no one to tell her who she is forced to discover it for herself. And perhaps that is the gift hidden within the pain, the realization that while she may walk alone, she is not truly lost. For the soul, even in its deepest isolation, still carries a light that cannot be extinguished, a spark that no amount of loneliness can erase. Loneliness is often seen as a weakness, a burden too heavy for the heart to bear. But what if loneliness is not the end of something, but the beginning? What if within the silence there is a strength that only a few ever discover? A woman who walks alone does not do so because she has failed, but because life has chosen her for something greater. She has been set apart, not cast away. She has been refined, not rejected. And in the depths of her solitude, she finds a power that those surrounded by constant companionship may never understand. Loneliness strips away distractions, leaving only the raw truth of who she really is. There is no one to validate her, no one to reassure her, no one to hold her hand through the storm. She learns that the only voice she can rely on is her own. In the quiet, she hears the doubts and fears that once hid beneath the surface, but she also hears something else, the voice of resilience, the whisper of a spirit that refuses to be broken. She realizes that she is enough, that her existence is not defined by the presence or absence of others, but by the strength she carries within. It is in loneliness that she becomes unshakable. She no longer depends on the approval of the world because she has learned to approve of herself. She no longer waits for someone to rescue her because she has become her own savior. The loneliness that once threatened to consume her has become the fire that forges her into something indestructible. Every moment of silence becomes a lesson, every unanswered call a reminder that she is capable of standing alone. There is power in knowing that she does not need anyone to complete her. She may desire companionship, but she no longer crumbles without it. The world may look at her and see an empty space where friends should be, but she knows better. She sees the growth, the wisdom, the depth that only solitude can bring. She has faced herself in the mirror, confronted her weaknesses, and emerged stronger. While others rely on the noise of the world to drown out their insecurities, she has faced them head on. Loneliness has taught her patience, endurance, and the value of her own company. It has shown her that she is not weak for being alone. She is powerful because she has learned to thrive in it. There is a quiet strength in a woman who has made peace with solitude. She does not seek validation in temporary connections, nor does she chase relationships that do not serve her. She walks through life with a confidence that is unbreakable because it was built in the moments when no one was watching. She may have once feared loneliness, but now she wears it like armor. It no longer defines her, it empowers her. The woman who once felt lost in solitude now stands as a force the world cannot ignore. The world is full of noise, movement, and endless distractions, yet within this chaotic flow, there are those who remain unseen. A woman who walks alone without the warmth of companionship knows this feeling all too well. She moves through life like a whisper in a crowded room, present but unheard, visible yet unnoticed. Society glances at her but never truly sees her. She is the passerby, the background, the silent observer of a world that rushes forward without ever stopping to acknowledge her existence. She steps onto a crowded street, surrounded by people who talk, laugh, and connect effortlessly. But no one turns their head in her direction. No one pauses to ask her name, to wonder about her story, to see the quiet battle she fights behind the mask she wears. She sits in a cafe, the only one at a table for two, stirring her coffee as conversations float around her like passing clouds. She walks through a park where children play, lovers hold hands, and friends exchange secrets, but she is merely a silhouette in the scenery, a presence unnoticed by those who are absorbed in their own worlds. The world is quick to celebrate those who stand in the light, who are surrounded by many, who command attention with their voices. But what of those who remain in the shadows? What of the ones whose voices are never heard, whose loneliness is overlooked, whose silent cries for connection fade into the background of daily life? Society assumes that if a woman is alone, it is by choice. If she does not speak, she has nothing to say. If she does not belong, it is because she was never meant to. But is that the truth, or is it simply an excuse to look the other way? No one sees the strength it takes for her to wake up every morning, knowing that she will face another day without a familiar hand to hold. No one sees the courage in her steps, the resilience in her heart, the way she keeps moving forward despite the absence of companionship. The world does not see the way she builds herself up in the silence, how she fills the empty spaces with dreams, how she carries on with a quiet dignity that speaks louder than words ever could. Perhaps the world does not see her because it does not know how to. It is too preoccupied with what is obvious, too drawn to the bright lights and loud voices to notice the beauty hidden in the quiet. But just because she is unseen does not mean she is insignificant. Just because no one acknowledges her does not mean she does not matter. The world may never stop to see her, but she sees herself. And maybe, just maybe, that is where true visibility begins. There is a cry that never reaches the ears of the world, a silent plea that echoes only within the heart of the one who carries it. It is the cry of a woman who smiles while her soul trembles, who speaks with steady words while her spirit shatters within. No one hears it, not because it is not there, but because it has been buried beneath the weight of time, expectation, and survival. It is the sound of loneliness wrapped in quiet endurance, the voice of unspoken pain masked by composure. She walks among others, blending into the flow of life, yet inside her heart there is a storm raging, a storm no one can see. She longs to be understood, to be held in a space where her emotions are not just heard but truly felt. Yet every time she reaches for connection, she is met with indifference, with distance, with the realization that the world does not pause for unseen sorrow. And so she learns to carry it alone, to swallow the words that beg to be spoken, to suppress the tears that threaten to escape. Her heart has learned the art of silence, the discipline of holding back. She has mastered the delicate balance between appearing strong and feeling broken. When she laughs, no one knows how much effort it takes. When she says, "I'm fine," no one questions the lie hidden within the words. The world does not ask because the world does not truly listen. And so her heart continues its quiet cry, releasing its sorrow into the empty spaces of the night, into the pages of an unwritten story, into the echoes of a life that moves forward without waiting for her grief to catch up. But silence does not mean peace. Holding back does not mean healing. There are wounds that deepen when left unseen, wounds that fester in the absence of a voice to acknowledge them. Her unspoken cry is not just the sound of loneliness, it is the sound of a heart desperate to be known, to be valued, to be recognized as something more than just another passing face in the crowd. She does not need the world to fix her. She does not need pity or shallow words of comfort. She needs to be heard, to be truly heard by someone who will not turn away, by someone who will not treat her pain as an inconvenience. But until that day comes, she will keep walking. She will keep carrying the weight of her silence, keep moving through the spaces where no one stops to see her. She will keep existing in a world that never pauses to listen. And in the quiet chambers of her soul, her heart will continue its unspoken cry, hoping, believing that one day someone will finally hear it. Destiny is not always revealed in moments of triumph. Sometimes it is hidden in the quiet, in the waiting, in the seasons of loneliness and struggle. A woman who walks alone, feeling unseen and unheard, may believe that her life is simply passing her by. She may look at the emptiness surrounding her and wonder if this is all there is. But what if her isolation is not a sign of abandonment, but a preparation? What if the very path she walks in solitude is shaping her for something greater than she could ever imagine? Life does not always unfold in ways that make sense. The moments of pain, the unanswered questions, the silent battles, each one carries a purpose beyond what the heart can immediately grasp. The woman who feels left behind may not realize that she is actually being set apart. She may think she has been forgotten, but perhaps she is simply being refined. There is a transformation happening within her, a quiet strengthening, a deep awakening. The world may not see it, but destiny is moving, shifting, preparing. She does not yet know that the loneliness she endures today is shaping the wisdom she will carry tomorrow. She does not yet realize that every tear she has cried in silence is watering the ground for something new to grow. The struggles that made her question her worth will one day reveal her strength. The silence she walks through now will one day give way to a voice so powerful that it cannot be ignored. Everything she has endured, every loss, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, none of it has been in vain. There will come a day when she will look back and see that nothing was wasted. Every heartbreak carved out space within her for something greater. Every moment of isolation taught her to stand on her own, to trust in her own strength, to walk with a confidence that does not rely on the approval of others. She will realize that she was not forgotten, she was being prepared. She was not lost, she was being positioned for something she could not yet see. Destiny does not always arrive with a grand entrance. Sometimes it unfolds in whispers, in slow movements, in the stillness where only faith can see what the eyes cannot. The woman who walks alone today may be the one who leads tomorrow. The one who feels unseen may be the one whose story will inspire countless others. And the pain she thought would break her may turn out to be the very thing that sets her free. Her destiny is unfolding not in the way she expected, not in the way the world would have scripted it, but in the way it was always meant to. Every step she takes, even in the darkness, is leading her closer. And one day she will see it. One day she will step into the light and realize that she was never forsaken. She was being prepared for something greater than she ever imagined. There comes a moment when the silence no longer feels like a prison, but a revelation. A moment when the weight of loneliness is no longer a burden, but a lesson. The woman who once walked unseen, unheard, and unnoticed begins to realize that she was never truly alone. Something was always growing within her. Something was always shifting, waiting for its time to awaken. And now the time has come. She has spent years wondering if she mattered, if her presence was significant in a world that never paused to acknowledge her. She has carried the ache of unanswered questions, of nights spent in solitude, of days where no one called her name. But now she sees what she could not see before. Every moment of silence was shaping her. Every step in isolation was making her stronger. Every tear she shed was watering the soil of her own becoming. She thought she had been forgotten, but in truth she was being transformed. The final awakening does not come with a sudden realization. It comes as a slow unfolding, a deep knowing that rises from within. She no longer looks outside of herself for validation, no longer seeks belonging in places that were never meant to hold her. She understands now that she was never waiting for the world to see her. She was waiting for herself to see her own power. And now she does. She rises not because the world has suddenly decided to acknowledge her, but because she has decided to acknowledge herself. The strength she once searched for in others, she now finds within. The love she once begged for, she now gives to herself. She no longer walks with her head down, no longer moves through life as a shadow in the background. She steps forward with a quiet confidence, an unshakable presence, a fire in her spirit that can no longer be ignored. The world may wonder what changed, but the truth is, nothing around her has changed, only she has. The same people who overlooked her still exist. The same indifference surrounds her, but now it no longer defines her. She has outgrown the need for validation, for acceptance, for permission to be seen. She does not need the world to grant her a place. She creates her own. And as she moves, as she speaks, as she steps fully into the person she was always meant to be, something shifts. The same world that once refused to see her now cannot look away. The same people who dismissed her now lean in to listen. But the irony is, she no longer needs them to. She has already found what she was searching for. The final awakening is not about being noticed. It is about knowing deep within her soul that she was never invisible to begin with. She was always more than enough. She was always destined to rise. And now she has.